What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel and to this different take on a review of SoundID Reference by Sonarworks. And it's not a full-on review because I'm not going to be looking at every little thing that SoundID does. I'm mainly going to be looking at translation check, which is the thing that I feel is slightly overlooked when it comes to Sonarworks, and especially with SoundID. By this point, if you're into music production, mixing, especially, and you're working on headphones, working on speakers, you'll know that because of physics, because of how manufacturing works, there is no such thing as a flat curve. We need something like this to flatten the curve and to let us get as an impartial sound as possible coming out of the speakers or out of our headphones. So if you're not familiar with what Sonarworks does with this kind of software is, you have, let's say in this case, my Sennheiser headphones, and they have a certain response curve, which is this one. And as you can see, there's some bumps, there's some dips. It's not flat. So you will be getting, for instance, this bump here, which will color your sound. So you might have a tendency to do a lot of cuts in this region when you're mixing, but actually it might not be the best idea, because when you'll get to a different set of speakers or a different set of headphones, you will not have this response here. So you need to compensate for that. And this does it for you. It kind of applies an opposite curve to compensate, to attempt to compensate and to flatten that as much as possible. So I'm going to keep it on simulated after. It doesn't really matter for the purpose of this video. As I said, I'm not going to be focusing on what it sounds like with this, because basically if you don't have my specific set of headphones, you will be hearing something completely different. So what I want to do now is actually check the translation check, which is absolutely amazing. It literally is a tool that you can use to see how all of your mixes sound on different equipment, in your car, some in-ear headphones, laptop, whatever. So there's a lot of presets here. There's a lot of curves here that simulate what your mix will sound like in a different environment. So what I want to do here is go through some of these and explore what a normal mix might sound like. So just to give you an idea of what's happening, and I am going to disengage the plugin because I don't want you to hear the EQ curve of my Sennheiser headset. So let's just listen to a mix that I recently did.
It's the one, if he don't know he's the one, it's the one, if he don't know he's the one, it's the one, if he don't.
So that's the song. Let's see what that would sound like in a car. So you have different kind of sub presets for every one of these listening environments. Let's try the harshest one, so in a car, and it's kind of an entry-level sound system.
And try to forget it's the one, if he don't know he's the one, it's the one, if he don't know he's the one, it's the one, if he don't know he's the one, it's the one, if he don't know he's the one, do you know who I am?
So as you can see, that's a completely different response depending on what kind of quote-unquote car you have. So for instance, if I went with this one, there's a lot of boominess in the low end. Do I want to do anything about that? Maybe not, but it could be something that I should probably pay attention to in the mixing process. Obviously, the song at hand has been mixed, mastered, so if there is a problem with it, it's a bit too late for regrets. I'm happy that here, even though, yeah, there is a lot of boom, the vocal is clearly audible. So let's try in-ear headphones.
And try to forget it's the one, if he don't know he's the one, it's the one, if he don't know he's the one, it's the one, if he don't know he's the one, it's the one, if he don't know he's the one.
So again, I'm kind of happy with that. I can clearly hear the vocal, and obviously the boominess is gone because we're focusing on in-ear headphones now. But the vocal is clearly audible and there isn't that much junk to kind of mask it. So let's explore laptop sounds now.
And try to forget it's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one. It's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one. It's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one. It's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one.
And you can tell that everything is a bit jumbled, but again, the vocal is audible, which I'm happy with. Let's try something else.
And try to forget it's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one. It's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one. It's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one. It's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one. Do you?
But yeah, one thing that you notice here is that a lot of these have a bit of a bump in the low end. Car, the in-ear headphones, less so. It's more of a hyped top end. But there is a bit of a boom. So what I could do at some point is on the song itself. Okay, there's a bit too much boom. I can just, I don't know, add a multi-band compressor and tame it a bit.
Don't know he's the one, the one. It's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one. It's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one.
Kind of sounds good. So it might have been something that I should have done during the mixing process, but yeah, that's what something like this is useful for. Let's try something else. Let's try a smartphone, because that's what a lot of people listen to music on.
And try to forget it's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one. It's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one.
So obviously this is mainly just mid-range, high-ish mid-range, but again, the vocal is audible, so I'm happy. One thing that I also do when I'm using something like this is engage mono and see if stuff is still audible.
And try to forget it's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one. It's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one. It's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one. It's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one. And try to forget it's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one. It's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one.
So I could hear a lot of rumble. Let's disengage this and see what it sounds like without it.
And try to forget it's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one. It's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one. It's the one, the one, the one. If he don't know he's the one, the one. It's the one, the one, the one. If he don't.
You lose a bit of punchiness and meat, but it does sound clearer, and it's something that you can explore if your aim is to have them sound really good on over-the-ear headphones or whatever. You do have studio speakers, TVs, you get the gist of it. This is obviously not something you should have on and aim to mix for a Korean 60-inch TV, of course. It's just something that you can have as a reference, and you use this if you have a bit of a hunch that there's a bit too much high end, there's a bit too much low end, or not enough. In this case, yeah, the song might have a bit too much low end, and on speakers, on studio speakers, it might sound good, it might sound full, punchy, fat. But if you listen on some of these other consumer grade products, there might be a bit of an issue with some of these parts of the frequency spectrum. So having something like this just lets you have a bit of a second opinion on what you're doing. But at that point, it's not too late to start doing things to the low end, to whatever. And yeah, hopefully by the end of the process, you'll get to a song that sounds better and translates to more systems. That's the objective here. It's not enough for it to sound good in your room with your speakers, with your headphones. People need to understand the mix. So that's my overview of SoundID Reference from Sonarworks. It's an amazing product, and I think this translation check feature is worth the price of admission alone. I highly recommend you give this a whirl, try the demo, see if it does something for you. I think you'll be happy with at least this aspect of it. And yeah, you can use it on your headphones. You can set up presets like I have here for my own headset, and hopefully that's gonna translate to better mixes. So that's my overview. Thanks a lot for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this product and the video, and I'll see you next time.